Okay, now it's time to assemble. So, what you need to do is have all of your parts open. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 8. Those are all the parts we drew. I'm going to keep them open, and I'm going to start a new assembly drawing. So I'm just going to hit the home button or the new button, either one. I'm going to select assembly. And to start our base part, we want the index plate and the index to be able to move. So we don't want those to be fixed. So the part that we're going to use as a fixed part is going to be the shaft. So that's number 8. So we'll just click on GVC008 and hit check. And it's going to place that right at the origin, and it will automatically fix it in place. It will not be able to move if you drag it. Before I go any farther, I'm going to edit my custom properties in an assembly. So File, Properties. Under Custom tab, we need to add each of the properties that we've been using. So just type them in just like I do here in the video. Everything's all one word, and it's actually what we can do is copy it out of a part. So I'm going to just cancel this for a moment, and like we did earlier this year, we're just going to copy the custom properties ID or tags from a part file. So File, Properties, Custom, and to do that I'm going to highlight right here where this black arrow is, scroll down and hit Control-C, and then jump to my assembly window, go to Custom Properties, click number 1 here, and hit Control-V. Now we need to edit them. So the part name here, it says part name, but it's an assembly name. So this will be Geneva Cam Assembly, ASSY. For material, we'll leave it as steel because it's mostly steel. Typically, if there's multiple materials, you would just say NA for not applicable. You drew it. Put the date of whenever you're doing the assembly. And revision we leave blank. Alright, now it's time to bring in some parts. So I like to just pull from windows. So I'm going to hit tiles horizontally. I've already got the shaft, so I'm going to close that one and then do this one more time. And now I need to bring in each part, so I can do it by either grabbing the part itself or grabbing the heading for the part in the feature tree and dragging and dropping. Okay, all my parts are loaded, so I'm going to close these windows. Full screen your assembly. And now we'll start with, let's see. We'll start with the index, and we'll place the index. Actually, yeah, we'll place the index. Actually, we'll start with the, I'm sorry. Yeah, start with the index. So we're going to use a mate, and we're going to select the pin or the shaft, and then we're going to select the inside face of the index, and that should default to concentric. If If not, select concentric. Then you can hit check. We are still in the mate tab. Next mate that we want to put in is a mate to place this thing up and down so that it doesn't move up and down. So let's just use a distance mate. I'm going to select the bottom of the shaft and the bottom of the index plate. And instead of being coincident, we're going to set a distance here. And let's just set that as 1 inch. We may come back and change that. I just realized I'm in metric. So I'm going to hit check and go down to the right and select inches. Please make sure that you change over to inches if you're in metric as well. I think that was the default, but okay, inches. I want to edit the mate that I just did. So I'm still in the mate command. I can just select this distance mate right here under mates, and then I have the ability to edit it. So I'll change this to 1 inch. There. Alright, let's hit check on that mate. Now we need the the Geneva to sit on top of the index plate. So this should go concentric to the shaft. Then the next mate, we'll place the bottom of the Geneva on the top of the index plate. Currently, the Geneva and index plate can move on their own. We want them to be moving together. So we're going to use a couple of planes that we have inside of those to make them coincident. So let's select we need to hit the drop down here. Find both of our parts by hovering. When you see the orange window lighting them up, expand the part. So from the Geneva, I want my front plane, and from my index plate, I believe, want my front plane. Yep. So I want these two planes to be in line, and what that's going to do is allow this hole to always be in line and centered on this radius. Hit check on that mate. Now these should move together. And now we need a location for this. So we're going to add a new shaft. So if you hold Control and click and drag off of this shaft, it's not going to work unless we get out of the mate. So hit the X, get out of the mate command, and try again. Hold Control, click and drag at the shaft. It'll pull a new shaft out. Now we want to align the two shafts. So first, we're going to select mate, and I'm going to hit this drop down, and let's collapse anything that's not being used. So I'm going to collapse everything to start. And another way to do that is just right click here and hit collapse items. I want my two GVC 008s, and I want we're going to do 3 mates. The top plane and top plane are going to be coincident. So you can just hit check on those. The front plane and front plane are going to be coincident, I think. Yep, that's fine. And then the right plane and right plane are going to have a distance. So select distance, and then the distance is coming from, let's see, we want to figure out how big this distance is. And I think, give me just a second, we've got to add a couple things together. So we need to add the diameter of 2.47. I'm going to pause the video so that I can explain it better. Yeah, I guess I don't need to explain it. It's right here. Diameters. The distance is going to be 1.5287. Every time I do this part, excuse me, that throws me off. So 1.5287. Okay, and then we're just going to hit check for that mate. I think that, there we go. Then we're going to get back to it. Now the index is going to be concentric on this shaft. And then we do want our bushing and washer in here. So the washer is going to sit on that face. So for right now, I'm just going to pull this up out of the way visually, and we're going to switch over to bushing and washer. So washer first. Inside of the washer is going to get mated to the inside of this hole. It did it. Mine went inside the part, which is a bummer because I really need to be able to grab that. So I'll try. If that happens to you, here's how you're going to fix it. Go to your view options and select hidden lines visible, and then right where, and actually we're going to have to hit check and close my mates. And then we need to click on move component, standard drag, and then right click and hit select. And then you should be able to grab the edge or something and pull it up. Whenever something like that happens, it's a little bit annoying just to try to grab onto it. But the other thing you could do is undo and then go and move the position of the washer out in space, up and down beforehand. But kind of difficult. Can change your visual style back to the normal shaded with edges afterward, and then jump back into mate. Now we want this surface and the underside of the washer to be connected, or I'm sorry, coincident. Then I want the top of the washer and bottom of the bushing to be coincident. And then these also need to be concentric. Okay. Had paused for a second to take a look at how to get the Geneva to rotate right, and was reminded that in SolidWorks we can't actually get these two to mate as they should, to have them rotate for every full turn that this does. This part does 1/5 of a turn, so you should be able to do a gear ratio, and we might still be able to do it based on a couple of things. But to set it up and get it close, first we've got to get this to lock down. So the bottom of the index plate is supposed to be mated to the top of the washer. So I'm going to select mate and then select the bottom of the index plate. And then I need to select the top of the washer, but I can't see that right now. So I'll switch my view type, or my display style, to be hidden, lines visible. And then I'm going to spin and just make sure I know what surface I need. So the one I need is sitting right about here, and I'm going to right click and hit select other, and that's going to allow me to select everything that was under my cursor. So there's the surface that I need. And just to double check, I'm going to zoom out and turn this sideways, and the washer currently is sitting at the same height as the bottom of the Geneva, so that's going to work. I'll hit check. One thing I remembered as I was putting this together is that this bushing in our drawing set is too big for this slot. And so what we're going to go do now is let's hit check and get out of here. Let's save the assembly. I haven't even done that yet. So Control S. And this should be GVC -100. Assembly files start in the 100 levels. And then just make sure it's in the same folder as all your other stuff. And hit save. Alright, now we want to go edit this part. I'll put my display style back. I'm going to right click on the the index plate, and going to edit the part. So I am actually in the part file right now, and the assembly is happening on in the background. So that's why everything else is like translucent. So I'm going to right click over here in my feature tree and hit collapse items. Now the one that's highlighted blue is what we're editing. So I'm going to expand this, and we're going to go right to our first sketch and edit that sketch. And this diameter of the slot of 0.2 we are going to change so that it fits the bushing. And actually we will be changing it one more time before we go to 3D print, but for right now, to change it to the correct bushing size, outside diameter of the bushing was 0.25, so we're going to change this from 0.2 to, let's make it 0.26. Just a little bit bigger than 1/4 of an inch. And hit check. Alright, now you can just hit the leave arrow, and then afterwards we're going to hit the leave arrow on the part, and it'll bring us back to the assembly. Okay, so now that that's updated, we want to position the Geneva and the index plate, and then the index so that it's somewhat in line. And then we're going to temporarily align the planes. So I'm going to do a mate, and then select our drop down, and I'm going to select my inside my GVC 001 and 002. I'll expand those two. 01, 02. And I want to use a couple of planes to line them up. So I want to take my front plane of 001 and my front plane of the other, and I want those to be coincident. So I'm not sure if that took. Nope, one of them was my face. Whoops. So front plane and front plane. And then you'll see them turn to each other. Mine went the wrong way, so I just need to hit the flip button. So flip mate alignment right here. That's still kind of backwards, but it does work. Wait. Actually, that might not work. I have no idea if this is going to work. Okay. I'm going to pause the video and come back to this. We may have to just leave this, unfortunately, without active mates that allow us to turn it by hand, and I may just teach you guys how to do a motion study when I return. So yep, we're going to do it when I return. So instead, to just get this thing to look right, for now, what we'll do is add 2 mates to get the alignment correct. So I'm going to jump out of mate to make sure I have my mates ready to go. Expand the mates at the bottom of your feature tree, and I still have a coincident mate between these planes, so I'll have to delete that. If you do, delete that, and let's rotate it back to what looks like it should work. And first, we'll use the, I'm going to collapse these. I'm going to select mate, and I'm going to use the mate of, I'm going to use the plane of the assembly. So front plane of the assembly is going to become coincident to the front plane of GVC 2 first. And then to make those 2 things coincident, that's going to line the bushing up. Make sure your bushing is lined up on this side. If you hit the flip button, the bushing might be on the other side. So hit the flip button so it's on this side if need be, and hit check. Then we're going to do the same thing with this one, from front plane of assembly to front plane of GVC 001. And if you have to hit the flip button, this would be the incorrect orientation. The correct orientation would be having the slot and bushing line up like so, and then hit check. Now, unfortunately, we can't rotate anything in that manner, but the assembly is done. So I'm just going to hit the space bar and look for my isometric view, and then close out of the mates, hit check or X, and let's save. Hit save all if it pops up. And that is going to cover the assembly portion. So we do have to make a base to this eventually, but for right now, that's far enough. Now what I need you to do is make a drawing just for the parts we have here. So for each of these parts, we need a drawing. And I will show you how to do a drawing for the, let's see, for 2 of these, and then the others you'll just do regular 2-view drawings in the same manner. So to get started, I'm just going to hit the home tab or home button, go to advanced, and make sure you hit Gwin B size. Alright, I'm going to stop this video here. The next video will start from this position.